As we move into chapter 8, I want to reiterate why I'm going through each one of these chapters. Most of you may know that I was blessed to become the first minority to receive a law degree, Juris Doctor, and a Master of Business Administration simultaneously in less than 3 years from the University of Florida in Gainesville. There I had a professor, and his name was Dr. Hank Fishkind. And one thing that he taught the class was that you should always look at the error term analysis. That's what we're going through in the reading of these chapters. Today, we're looking at chapter 8, Professional Education Discouraged. So you know that that means a lot to me. Here at chapter 8, we can see professional education was discouraged with the Negroes. And it reads from the beginning, if mistakes have been made in miseducating the Negro professionally, it must be charged not so much to the account of the Negroes themselves as to the fact of their friends who have performed this task. We are dealing here then mainly with information obtained from the study of Negroes who have been professionally trained by whites in their own schools and in mixed institutions. The people whom the Negro professional men have volunteered to serve have not always given them sufficient support to develop that standing and solidarity which will make their position professional and influential. Most whites in contact with Negroes, always the teachers of their brethren in Black, both precept and practice, have treated the professions as aristocratic spheres to which Negroes should not aspire. And those that did so were starved out by the whites who would not treat them as a professional class. For example, because of a law that a man could not be admitted to the bar in Delaware without practicing a year under some lawyer in the state, and no white lawyer would grant a Negro such an opportunity until a few years ago. It was only recently that a Negro was admitted there to the bar association. Some professional schools and institutions for Negroes were closed about 30 or 40 years ago. And this was written in 1933, man. And we're doing the error term analysis. What went wrong with our education? That's why we're looking at it instance by instance, chapter by chapter. I continue to read. This was especially true of the law schools, closed during the wave of legislation against the Negro. At the very time, the largest possible number of Negroes needed to know the law for the protection of their civil and political rights. In other words, the thing which the patient needed the most to pass the crisis was taken from him that he might more easily die. Social engineering creates predictive behavior. This one act, among many others, is an outstanding monument to the stupidity or the malevolence of those in charge of Negro schools, and it serves as a striking demonstration of the miseducation of the race. The Negro lawyer could not induce the white attorney to act. The author finally went to the office himself. This was Dr. Woodson's interaction with a black lawyer and a white lawyer. And the author, Dr. Woodson, finally went to the office himself to complain of the delay. The white attorney frankly declared that he had not taken up the matter because he did not care to treat with a Negro attorney, but he would deal with the author, who happened to be at the time the teacher of a Negro school and was therefore in his place. At one time, the Negroes in medicine and correlated fields were regarded in the same light. They had difficulty in making their own people believe that they could cure a complaint, fill a tooth, or compound a prescription. The whites said that they couldn't do it. And of course, if the whites said so, it was true. So far as most Negroes were concerned, it's true. Although there has been an increase in the particular spheres, however, the professions among Negroes, with the exception of teaching and preaching, are still on demand. In the same way, the Negro was once discouraged and dissuaded from taking up designing, drafting, architecture, engineering, and chemistry, the whites, they were told, will not employ you, and your people cannot provide such opportunities. In music, dramatics, and correlated arts, too, the Negro has been unfortunately misled. Because the Negro is gifted as a singer and can render more successfully than others the music of his own people, he has been told that he does not need training. Scores of those who have undertaken the function in this sphere without adequate education then have developed only to a certain point beyond which they have not had the ability to go. The small number of Negro colleges and universities which undertake the training of the Negro in music is further evidence of the belief that the Negro is all but perfect in this field and should direct his attention to the traditional curricula. The same misunderstanding with respect to the Negroes in dramatics is also evident. We have long had the belief that the Negro is a natural actor who does not require any stimulus for further development. Thus, misled, large numbers of Negroes ambitious for the stage have not bloomed forth into great possibilities. To many of them, have finally ended up with roles in questionable cafes, cabarets, and nightclubs in America and Europe. And instead of increasing the prestige of the Negro, they have brought the race into disgrace. We scarcely realize what a poor showing we make in dramatics in spite of our natural aptitude in this sphere. Only about a half dozen Negro actors have achieved greatness. But we have more actors and showmen than any other professionals except for teachers and ministers. The Negro on the stage is still mainly the product of the trial and error method. The large majority of Negroes have settled down, then to contentment as ordinary clowns and comedians. They have not had the courage or they have not learned how to break over the unnatural barriers and occupy higher ground. The Negro author is no exception to the traditional rule. He writes, but the white man is supposed to know more than about everything than the Negro. So who wants a book written by a Negro about one? As a rule, not even a Negro himself, for if he is really educated, he must show that he has the appreciation for the best in literature. The Negro author then can neither find a publisher nor a reader, and his story remains untold. Help us, Lord.